As we discussed long day ago, in Ibn Arabi's mystical philosophical framework, the absolute in its absoluteness is an utterly unknowable mystery, existing beyond human understanding.
Regarding human understanding of God, the self-manifestation or tajalli of this absolute mystery is already taking place, marking the very start of the process. This initial phase is the most profound and complete expression of the absolute mystery as it emerges from its hidden depths. It highlights that when we attempt to speak about God and describe Him accurately, we are inevitably compelled to refer to one aspect or another of His self-manifestation, that is, the relatively absolute. In contrast, the absolute in its unmanifested state is never accessible through human language. It remains an absolute mystery. In this regard, it is the reason truly God is beyond need of the worlds. And O mankind, you are needful of God, and He is the self-sufficient, the praised. It is absurd that God needs His creatures, when in fact precisely only creatures are needful of God as emphasized by the Quranic verses. Certainly, such understanding is true, but not complete when seen from ontological viewpoint. The understanding that God is beyond need of the worlds is undoubtedly true, since God as the hidden treasure is wholly independent of the whole worlds. Likewise, in practical ways, God is surely not dependent on creatures. Nonetheless, if it is seen from ontological viewpoint, the existence of God inevitably presupposes the existence of others, namely creatures. That is to say, once God is at the level of manifestation, His existence presupposes creatures. Such a condition is necessary since, if there is no creaturely world, for simple instance, God as creator cannot be considered the creator, and therefore the relationships between the Lord and servant is really necessary in such an ontological level.
Hence, we have many times emphasized that we have to distinguish between the absolute per se, or the absolute in its absoluteness, and the absolute in its self-manifestation, or tajalli, which is then called God, Al-Haq, Allah, whatever it's called. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't, and like the video if you enjoy it. Thank you so much for all of you, especially you who have donated to me to this small channel.
Therefore, regardless of how we approach the issue, we inevitably arrive back at Ibn Arabi's basic premise. The absolute in its absoluteness is totally unknown and unknowable. In essence, the inner nature of the absolute per se resists any effort to define it. As such, one cannot ask, what is the absolute per se? It seems that the absolute lacks mahiyya, or quiddity. According to Ibn Arabi, although the absolute lacks a distinct quiddity, essence, it is still possible for a believer to put forth question about the essence of God. However, there is only one valid answer to this question, that is, as we have briefly discussed in another episode, the response Moses gave in the Quran when he was asked by Pharaoh, "What is the Lord of the worlds?" Ibn Arabi interprets the question posed to Moses by Pharaoh, "What is?" as a philosophical inquiry into the quiddity or mahiyya of God. By asking, "What is God?" Pharaoh seemed to imply that God possessed a distinct mahiyya beyond his existence. This led those present to believe that if God had a quiddity, a true messenger would understand it and could provide a satisfactory answer. However, since God cannot be defined in a logical sense, a true messenger cannot give a satisfactory definition of God. Those unfamiliar with the true nature of Pharaoh's question may view an indefinite response as an indication that the person providing it has no true knowledge and thus is not a true messenger. Pharaoh asked Moses the question not out of ignorance but as a test. He was aware that a true messenger of God should possess knowledge about God, so he sought to challenge Moses' claim of being a messenger. Pharaoh's question was designed to manipulate the perception of those present, potentially making Moses appear inferior to Pharaoh. This was because, from the outset, it was expected that Moses could not provide a satisfactory answer.
However, Ibn Arabi argues that philosophically speaking, it is not inherently wrong to ask what is God, as Pharaoh did. The question itself is valid even though Pharaoh's intention may have been deceitful.
Quote, "The question was legitimate, for asking what a thing is a question about the essence of what is sought, which must characterize the thing itself and no other. As for those who made definitions composed of genus and differentia, this procedure applies to all things that are characterized by equivocality. However, God who has no genus must have a specific essence not shared by others. Asking about the quiddity of something is inquiring about its true essence or its reality. While God does have reality, asking about the mahiyya of something is not precisely the same as asking for its logical definition. In the view of Ibn Arabi, questioning the mahiyya of a thing is to inquire about the unique reality of that thing, which is unlike anything else. A logical definition, on the other hand, involves combining a genus and a specific difference, which can only apply to universals that can be commonly shared among things. This means that logical definitions can only be formed for concepts that allow common participation or categorization, which is different from the inquiry into the distinct and incomparable reality of a thing. For instance, if we want to define dog logically, we can use the genus or general category animal and the specific difference or special characteristics. It is furry, has 4 legs, and barks. So, the logical definition of dog is an animal that is furry, has 4 legs, and barks. Logical definitions like this allow us to categorize concepts in general and then differentiate them based on specific characteristics, while inquiry about the reality of a thing focuses more on the unique and incomparable characteristics of the thing. Anything that cannot be classified into a logical genus cannot be defined in the traditional sense, but this does not mean it lacks its own distinct reality that sets it apart from other things. In a broader sense, everything has its own unique reality that defines it as it is, separate from all other things. Therefore, the question, "What is God?" is entirely reasonable for those who understand the truth. It is only those without real knowledge who claim that if something cannot be defined, it cannot be questioned as to what it is. This perspective overlooks the idea that even without a formal definition, the distinct and singular reality of a thing can still be understood and explored. When asked by Pharaoh, "What is the Lord of the worlds?" Moses answers, "The Lord of the heavens and the earth and whatsoever is between them, would that you were certain." Pharaoh attempts to demonstrate that Moses' response can only be given by someone who is ignorant of God or who has a limited understanding of God. His aim is to assert his superiority over Moses in front of his subjects. However, Ibn Arabi argues that Moses' response is the most accurate and fitting answer in this context. In Ibn Arabi's words, Moses' answer to it is the only correct answer. This implies that Moses' response perfectly captures the essence of the question and aligns with the truth, regardless of Pharaoh's intentions to undermine Moses.
It is important to note that to give an answer about the reality of God without relational context is impossible. Therefore, instead of directly answering the question about God's mahiyya, Moses speaks of the act of tajalli.
By doing so, Moses suggests that the absolute is beyond all limitations and definitions, and therefore the absolute does not belong to any genus or possess any specific differences because the absolute encompasses the whole within itself. Moses provided the only appropriate response in his answer. Even though Pharaoh knew that this was the only possible answer, he used it to his advantage by making it appear as though Moses lacked knowledge about God. Superficially, Moses' answer seemed incomplete, giving Pharaoh the opportunity to create the impression among onlookers that Moses was ignorant of God. This manipulation allowed Pharaoh to appear superior in understanding the divine, even though he knew the true nature of the question and its only valid answer. Quote, "Here is a great mystery, for Moses actually answered one who had asked for an essential definition, and for this reason, he made the essential definition his reference to the forms of the world through which God manifests himself, or the forms of the world in which he is manifest. One can understand his answer to the question, 'What is the Lord of the worlds?' as if Moses said, 'The one in which the high forms of the world are manifest, that is, the heaven, and the low forms, that is, the earth.'" Instead of attempting to define al-Haq, Moses explains the reality of lordship, Rububiyah. Rather than directly explaining al-Haq, he focuses on what is attributed to him. Moses states that God is the one who holds dominion over both the higher spiritual world and the lower material world, as well as all the determinations, relationships, and attributions that exist between them. Moses emphasizes that God is both the outward, by his lordship over all things, and the inward, by his he-ness that permeates all things. This is because God is the very core of everything perceived through any form of experience. According to Ibn Arabi, Moses clarifies that defining God is only possible by relating him to everything other than him. Quote, "Moses said, 'The Lord of the heavens and the earth and whatsoever is between them, would that you were certain.' Pharaoh said to those around him, 'Do you not hear?' Moses said, 'Your Lord, and the Lord of your fathers of old.' Pharaoh said, 'Truly your messenger who has been sent to you is possessed.'" Moses, against Pharaoh's slyness, emphasizes, "God is the Lord of the east and west, and whatsoever is between them, if you understand." Ibn Arabi finds a profound and valuable truth within a seemingly ordinary statement made by Moses. He interprets Moses' words as a symbolic reflection of his thought. According to Ibn Arabi, the east represents where the sun rises, symbolizing the visible and material aspect of al-Haq's tajalli. The west, where the sun sets and disappears from view, signifies the unseen aspect of al-Haq's tajalli. These two forms of tajalli, visible and unseen, correspond to the two great names of God, the outward and the inward. The visible tajalli encompasses the world of tangible material things, while the unseen tajalli gives rise to the non-material spiritual world. Naturally, the area between the east and west refers to forms that are neither purely material nor purely spiritual, known by Ibn Arabi as Alam al-Khayal, the imaginal realm. All of Moses' responses aim to identify the thing in question with the essence of wujud. In other words, instead of trying to explain the absolute and sitch, Moses chose to describe God's self-manifestating aspect. Moses understood that Pharaoh's question, "What is God?" was not seeking a philosophical or logical definition of God. Consequently, he provided the answers as previously described. Had Moses believed that Pharaoh was asking for a strict definition, he would not have answered at all. Instead, he would have pointed out the absurdity of such a question. Succinctly, al-Haq, at the level of unity, remains unknowable. Human knowledge requires adopting a particular stance or viewpoint. That is to say, when one attempts to comprehend something, it inevitably involves a specific condition or relation that hinders an immediate understanding of the object.
However, the absolute in its pure absoluteness transcends all relationships and perspectives, making it beyond human grasp. Thus, at this level, truly God is beyond need of the words. Inna wa la ghaniyun 'anil alamin. See you.